All right, let's dive into something that affects so many of us: cosmetic labels. We're going to decode the confusing, sometimes kind of misleading world of what's on your products here in the US. Let's get right into it. You've been there, right? Standing in a store, staring at a bottle of lotion or a serum, and you're just completely lost. All that tiny print, the weird symbols, it honestly feels like you need a chemistry degree just to figure out what you're buying. But I promise you, you're not alone in feeling that way, and by the end of this, you're gonna feel like a total pro. So first things first, we gotta understand the basic layout of a cosmetic label. Because it's not just a random mess of information. No, there's a real system to it, and trust me, once you see the pattern, you'll never be able to unsee it. We're gonna tackle this in 3 simple steps. First, we'll look at the pretty part, the front of the box. That's what the industry calls the principal display panel, or PDP. Then we're going to flip it over because that's where the real secrets are, in the information panel. And finally, we'll put on our little detective hats and investigate all those marketing claims to see what they actually mean. Okay, let's get to the nitty-gritty, the heart of the label, that ingredient list. Now, this isn't just some jumble of complicated words. It's actually governed by some very specific, very rigid rules from the FDA. And understanding these rules, well, that's the absolute key to knowing what you're really putting on your skin. So here's the deal. The first few ingredients you see, that's what makes up most of the product. That is the golden rule. Then you've got the 1% rule. And this one's super important. Anything that's less than 1% of the total formula can be listed in pretty much any old order right at the end. Color additives, they're always dead last. And then there's the secret rule. Companies can just use the word fragrance or flavor as a catch-all for what could be, dozens of different scent chemicals. It's a huge loophole that's getting a lot of attention right now. And here's a little insider tip for you straight from packaging designers. A really well-designed label will often physically separate those main ingredients from the group that's under 1%. You might see a little line or just some extra space. It's a small thing, but it's often a good sign that a brand is trying to be transparent. Now, this brings us to what is maybe the single most important distinction in all of labeling. Is that product you're holding a cosmetic, a drug, or could it be both? The answer changes everything about the rules. And it all boils down to the claims the product makes on its packaging. The difference is all in the words they use. If a product says it moisturizes or improves the appearance of skin, the FDA sees that as a cosmetic. Its job is to alter appearance. But the second it claims to treat acne or prevent sunburn, it crosses over into drug territory. Why? Because now it's claiming to actually change the way your body works or to treat or prevent a disease. Exactly. That's the logical next question, isn't it? What about all those products we use every day that do 2 things at once? You know, like your daily moisturizer that also has sunscreen in it. It moisturizes, which is a cosmetic claim, but it also prevents sunburn, which is a drug claim. So, what is it? Well, when a product makes both types of claims, it gets regulated as a drug. Simple as that. It becomes what's known as a combo product, and it has to follow the much, much stricter labeling rules for over-the-counter drugs. That is exactly why you see that familiar drug facts box on your SPF moisturizer or your anti-dandruff shampoo. The drug rules always win. And while we're on this topic, let's just quickly bust a huge myth. The word cosmeceutical. You see it everywhere, right? It sounds so official, like it's a mix of a cosmetic and a pharmaceutical. But here's the truth. According to US law, the term means nothing. It's not a real category. It's a marketing buzzword, plain and simple with zero legal or regulatory meaning. Okay, moving on from ingredients and drug facts, the FDA also requires some very specific warnings for certain types of products. And these aren't just, friendly suggestions. They are mandatory statements that you really need to be aware of. You really want to pay attention to that first one. If a company hasn't actually proven that their product is safe before they put it on the market, they are legally required to print this right on the label. Warning, the safety of this product has not been determined. The other warnings are more specific for things like aerosol cans, tanning oils that don't have any SPF, or even certain hair dyes made with coal tar. All right, it is time. Let's tackle one of the most common, one of the most trusted, and one of the most misunderstood claims in the entire beauty industry: hypoallergenic. Just take a second and really think about it. When you see that word hypoallergenic on a package, what does your brain automatically assume? That it's been tested? That it's free of anything that could cause an allergy? That it's basically a guarantee you won't have a bad reaction? The real answer might shock you. Legally, it means absolutely nothing. The FDA does not have an official, binding, or regulatory definition for the word hypoallergenic. A company can slap that on a product without having to meet any specific government standard or perform any particular test. So, how did this happen? Well, believe it or not, the FDA actually tried to fix this way back in the 1970s. They created a rule to define what hypoallergenic should mean. But that rule was immediately challenged in court by the makeup brand Almay. And the court sided with Almay. The rule got thrown out, and ever since, the term has just been floating in this regulatory limbo, used almost entirely as a marketing tool. So when you look at the timeline, you can see this is not a new problem. The fight to give this word real meaning was basically lost in 1978, and for decades, it's just been the status quo. But the story isn't quite over. Things are starting to change. New regulations are coming under MOCRA, that's the Modernization of Cosmetics Regulation Act, and they're going to require companies to disclose specific fragrance allergens. So while the word hypoallergenic itself might stay undefined, you're about to get a lot more information to help you make your own choices. So there you have it. The secret language of cosmetic labels decoded. You now know how to read that ingredient list like a pro, you know how to tell a cosmetic from a drug just by its claims, and you know the real story behind words like hypoallergenic. The power is officially back in your hands. So the only question left is, the next time you pick up a bottle, what are you going to look for first?